last conference will be in English. We're very happy to have with us Robert Paris, president of Matinée Leadership International. He's a certified master neuroplastician. It's a science that applies to management and leadership. He created also the Renew process. I'm sure that you'll say a few words about that also. And he was involved for work with Johnson & Johnson, Cirque du Soleil, MS Health, Extrata Nickel, and many others. Also been a guest lecturer at McGill Executive Institute, John Molson School of Business, Niagara Institute, and some others. So we're very happy to have him with us. So here you are, sir.
Is that Stone?
Yes. Stan is here.
Has to be a short speak. Open it. Let's see. Look.
Merci. OK. C'est un réel plaisir d'être ici. Je sens l'énergie dans la tour. Est-ce vrai? OK, come on. Plus d'énergie, come on. The question is, are our brains ready for AI? I don't know. What do you think? Okay, no. We have spent decades and decades and decades improving machines, making them faster, more powerful, faster, more productive, more powerful. But have we spent the equivalent time understanding the impact that all these emerging technologies have had on our brain? And unfortunately, no. And as we're going to see in this presentation, there is a profound impact that all these emerging technologies are having on our brain, very profound. And I'm going to point that out. There'll be some research, but importantly, what can we do about it? And that's really, really what is so important.
A clicker.
Okay, what I'm going to do right now, I want to involve you a little bit. I'm going to show you a screen that has 15 numbers on it. So you have to be awake for this. I'm going to ask you to memorize the 15 numbers. Are you ready? Here we go. That's it. Okay, can anyone in the room stand up? What are the 15 numbers? No one? Not one person can remember that. Isn't that interesting, right? What, two? A couple of you have two. Okay. Good try. You did get the 9 right. Yes. Those were the last, every number but the last one. Congratulations. That's really good. The point of the matter, though, is that AI and emerging technology could have processed that with a blink of an eye and can remember it tomorrow and the day after, the week after, the month after, 50 years from now, hundreds of years from now. But we can't do that. That's beyond the capabilities of the human brain. So AI never forgets, and that's a really good thing. But maybe forgetting is a human strength. If we were to remember everything, every second that goes on in our brains, what would happen? Our brains would absolutely implode. So forgetting is actually a good thing. And thank God we have AI to take advantage of that. So I just want to, again, introduce myself, that dapper picture that you see up there. I'm basically, though, as was in the introduction, a neuroplastician. And what we do is we teach people how their brains work. We teach them we are not in control of our brains. We teach them that a significant percentage of time our brain works against our best interest, which is kind of scary. So our brains are a prediction machine. Okay, we have millions and millions of mental maps in our brain. However, we basically aren't in control of them, and we make predictions based on our life experiences. So never believe that your reality is the reality. All it is, when we come to your business analyst, when you come to a decision, it basically is your life experiences. But somebody else on the team might have other life experiences as well. That's why cognitive diversity of thought is so really important, because none of us know it all. But it's when we come together that it becomes a great exercise in terms of coming up with better and better and better solutions. We did the leadership training program 20 years ago for the Cirque du Soleil around the world, work in a wide variety of sectors, done a number of things. I was also last year the mental training coach for the Ottawa Senators. Sorry, Habs fans. That's okay. Good. No boobs, which is good, but I'm not with them this year. So let's get back to that really, really important question. Are our brains ready for AI? And if you take a look to my left, that is an AI diagram. But if you take a look at the right, there's the brain with a stethoscope around it. Because our brains really, as we're going to find out, this deluge of information and data that come to us on a regular basis is really, really harming our brains. And we have to understand it and what to do about it. That is really critically important. So the AI explosion and the human factor. We know every day that AI systems make decisions faster than we can. However, how does this affect the main organ that we have, which is our brain? What's the impact on it? The reality is our brains are not designed to process information as quickly as AI is throwing at it. It's just not. And when we keep, we basically overload our brains when we keep throwing information at it every second of every day. Not just emerging technologies, but getting out in the world. We have so much information that coming at it that it's overloading our brains. And our brains simply were not meant to cope with the whole thing. So how does the brain work under stress? What exactly goes on? And I want to talk about this. We have in the front of our brains over here the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is really, really important because it's the center of our decision-making. It's the center of complex problem solving. And as business analysts, you use that all the time, this executive center for decision-making. The problem is what's going on time and time again. Every minute, every day, we're being bombarded by information is that our brains are under stress. That prefrontal cortex and the rest of our brain is under stress. So you all analyze information and make decisions, but the result of all of this is that our brains are being fatigued. So your ability to take the information and make cognitive decisions on it and creative decisions, which is also part of the prefrontal cortex, actually less and less and less. We make less effective decisions when our brains are overtaxed. We lose our ability to be innovative, or at least it's greatly, greatly diminished. As well, all these algorithms are really interesting when we take a look at, again, let's say AI, ChatGPT, or whatever, we feed into it what we want, right? You're using ChatGPT, you say, here's the information I want, and it really, that comes back to you. But is that really the correct information? Because all it is based on the question. If you ask AI a different question, you're going to get a different answer. So it really reflects who we are. And it doesn't necessarily give us the entire picture, if you will. So if we trust algorithms blindly, our biases can be amplified because it feeds back what we want. And we use it the next time, feeds back what we want. But it also, we have innate biases and prejudices in our brain, okay, that keep biasing the whole picture and biasing our ability to make effective decisions. Okay, so I'm going to share with you some pertinent research that has come out, a lot of it this year, on the impact that emerging technologies are having on our brains. Take a look at, there's two graphs here. The one to my left over here is a 2025 Microsoft study. And it basically says, look at the human attention span over time in seconds. In the year 2000, this was measured. Basically, our attention time was around 12 seconds. Look in 2025, the average time focused on a task has shrunk to 47 seconds for the average computer task. Wow, isn't that alarming? In just 25 years, we've gone from 12 seconds to 8.25. And that is really alarming. If you take a look on the right, that's a 2025 Ohio State survey. And it basically says now the average time focused on a computer task is 47 seconds. You know what it was around the start of this century? Anybody venture a guess? 2.5 minutes. In just 25 years, look at that, the average time focused on a task has shrunk from 2.5 minutes to 47 seconds. So all these emerging technologies, are they impacting our brain? Absolutely. Let's go on to another study as well. This is an MIT study, very small, only 54 participants. In fact, many of these studies are still small. We need much more research than we're getting right now. But these are some of the most au courant studies that are out there. So what is the brain activity in writing task? And this is, again, an MIT study. They measured neural activity, neural performance, linguistic performance, behavioral performance. And they found with a control group, this was over a 4-month period, those who did not use ChatGPT, if you look at the neural activity as a base of 100% versus the ChatGPT group, their attention span, brain activity, neural activity went down to 75%. Again, a really small study, but indicative of what's going on. We have to be aware of what the impact, again, of emerging technologies, what they're doing to us. And one last study. This is, again, a BMC nursing study, 154 participants on using educational technologies that were measured here. And what it basically says, again, over a period of several months of using emerging technologies, again, in an educational and health environment, they found our physical and mental well-being, at least those of the participants, went down 20%. Our ability to focus went down 25%. And stress levels went up 30%. Absolutely alarming. So if anybody thinks that we are in control of our brain, that all these emerging technologies aren't having an impact on us, we're absolutely wrong. So we actually have emotional responses to AI. Okay, so let's explore that a little bit right now. We have fear and trust as a result of emerging technologies. Show of hands, how many of you, as business analysts, fear that one day AI can replace your jobs? Let's have a show of hands. Little more than half the room are there. Think of the anxiety. It would be normal to think, well, why can't AI do my job? And the reality is out there, there's a lot of people who are extremely stressed about that. How many people are stressed that the information you get from these emerging technologies are accurate? How many, have a fear or anxiety about that? Yes, many of you. There's no question about it because, again, AI, ChatGPT, whatever, will spew out to you, okay, what you put into it. And we know, I just finished writing a book that I'll talk about a little bit, but AI can have a really negative impact. It can make mistakes. I use a lot of research, AI, to do that, and I found mistakes. So we have to be really careful. And if you're making a recommendation to a supervisor, are you really 100% sure that that information is accurate? You better really, really check it. So there's a lot of anxiety about that. In addition, as the pointed there, AI, there's trust issues. The brain evaluates AI like it does any other person for competence and reliability. And so the question is, should we trust AI, ChatGPT, or not? And that causes a lot of fear and anxiety, because when we don't trust somebody or we don't trust AI, you know what happens? There's negative neurochemicals that are released into the body. Cortisol, histamines, adrenaline, norepinephrine, all kinds of them. And these are meant, if they're constantly, day after day, if these neurochemicals are surging through your body, it's going to lead to mental and physical health problems. There's no question about it. That's why we see so much out there in the business world of burnout. So we have to be really, really careful. Now, there's something else we really get used to. Let's say ChatGPT, right? Wow, that's really cool. We come into the office, we need an answer. Plug it into ChatGPT, we get the answer. Really cool. Then 5, 10, 15 minutes later, need an answer. We go to ChatGPT, in this case, we get the answer. And so on, and so on, and so forth. The next hour, the next day, or whatever. So every time happens that we get the answer, dopamine, which we call the pleasure chemical, is released in the brain. We love it. It becomes like an addiction, much like we can become addicted to drugs or alcohol or gambling. We can actually be addicted to, in this case, ChatGPT. So we have to be really, really careful because, again, using all this AI can trigger our reward pathways. So there's all kinds of things that are going on. I know what you might think. This guy Paris comes up here. This is the end of the conference, so to speak, in terms of speakers. And we're supposed to be uplifted. What's he doing? Totally, right? How many of you are depressed right now? Right? Yeah, I mean, it's like, what's going on? It really, really is an issue. But I'm a neuroplastician. There's an answer. And that's what I like to address for the rest of my presentation. What exactly can we do about all of this? Okay, so there's a great concept out there, and the concept is neuroplasticity. Who has heard of the concept of neuroplasticity? Okay, it is extraordinarily important that you understand that. The brain is highly adaptable. We find, for example, in visually impaired people, other areas of the brain take over. Okay, so visually impaired people, their memories improve, their hearing improves, on and on. Even people that have strokes, other areas of the brain take over to compensate. And that's really a good thing. So the concept of neuroplasticity allows the brain to learn new ways of thinking with AI. We can adapt to it. But it's not going to be really an easy task because we have to work at it. We really have to work at it. We have to understand the brain was designed to help us survive, period. It was not designed to help us thrive, to be happy, to experience joy. It just wasn't. So we have to work at this. But the good news is, if we work at it, we can adapt. Our brains can adapt to this whole thing. So what do we have to do? We have to train our brains to be able to adapt to emerging technologies. Okay, and there are ways to do that. And I'm going to get into the next slide, skills that you absolutely need in this age of emerging technologies. Without doubt, I'm going to talk about some mental strategies that everybody should be using here on a regular basis to allow the neuroplasticity of the brain to really fulfill itself. So we have to train our brains, but then we have to repeat and repeat. The brain, when you repeat tasks, for example, negativity, if you're hanging around negative people and reading negative articles, you're actually training your brain to be negative because you're repeating. So you have to be really careful. Who are the people I hang out with? Okay, what are the news feeds? There's so much darkness out there. Am I getting these on a regular basis? We have to be really careful. Be aware of what's going on, but are we wiring our brains to be negative? And that, yes, we really are. But however, if we can wire our brains to be positive by excluding a lot of the negativity, hanging around with really positive people, looking at some positive news feeds if they exist, but yes, they do, right? Then we wire our brains to be positive. So that's repetition. The brain, what it focuses in on is what it's absorbed, and what absorbs it. And if we go and repeat, we're going to wire our brains to what we're paying attention to. And then we have to be able to reflect on what's going on in our brains. Okay? We train, we repeat, but then reflect on what's going on. How many of you reflect on, okay, I got the answer from ChatGPT, but is it right? Is it accurate? Is it the answer that I really wanted? It's based on my experiences, right? But my experiences are highly biased. So we have to reflect the input that's going on to these emerging technologies are really based on our life experiences, okay? The reality is that humans are strongest when complementing AI rather than competing. And that's what we have to learn to do. And I love that slide, altering neuroplasticity with thoughts. And that's what we have to do. We have to really adjust the way we think so that we could adjust to this deluge of information that's hitting our brains every hour of every day. So I mentioned there are some skills that we can look to. If you take a look at the left of the slide, this is incredibly important. Here are some cognitive skills that matter more than ever, that we can do better than machines. Simple as that. The first one is creativity. We are better, we are more creative when we use that area, those areas of the brain related to creativity and innovation. So we have to train ourselves to be creative. I think previous speaker talked about design thinking. Those are some of the things that we have to use because we are far more creative than AI can ever be. The second thing is judgment. And I think, again, previous speakers have alluded to this. We When AI generates information, that's all it's doing. We are the experts it's judging of making sense of all of that. Because we not only have our cognitive brain, we have our emotional brain, we have our prefrontal cortex, we have our creative brain there as well. So we have to pay attention and train ourselves in terms of making judgments. The third skill, emotional intelligence. Okay, a lot of you are business analysts, and I bet your cognitive skills are well developed. But what about your emotional intelligence? When we look at IQ versus EQ, intelligent quotient versus emotional quotient, the best predictor of success is having a high EQ, emotional quotient. Both are incredibly important, but there are many courses and programs out there based on emotional intelligence. I highly encourage you to get in touch with them because this is the future. The fourth is metacognition. Metacognition is thinking about our thinking. How do we think? You're business analysts. How do you really make decisions? Have you ever thought about that? Because when we think about that, we might come to a conclusion that maybe we are biased in terms of how we make decisions. Maybe we don't have the entire picture. You got to be thinking about how you're thinking as a means of developing the neuroplasticity of the brain. And finally, ethical reason, ethics. There's lots of ethical questions. We read about them, hear them, visualize them on a regular basis. There are ethical considerations, as we all know, with these emerging technologies. We as human beings are in the best position to judge those ethics, okay? So where we're coming to is that routine tasks may be automated, freeing us for higher level thinking. And that's the balance that we have to strike between these automatic tasks, but what are our capabilities? And the 5 skills that I've mentioned are right there. You must invest in these human skills because that's where the future is, okay? And we must strike that balance between what emerging technologies can do and what our brains can do. Okay, there are also mental strategies that are really important, and I implore you to pay attention to this as well. Mindfulness and attention management reduce AI-induced stress. How many of you practice some kind of meditation or mindfulness on a regular basis? Okay, there's a few hands. I implore every one of you in this room to start doing it. Because what happens with the practice of mindfulness is that it allows our brains to rest. It gives us a tremendous rest. We get rid of all this, onslaught of information, and we must put our brains to rest. And there's no better way of doing that. So here's what I'm going to do for 2 minutes, okay? And involving each and every one of you. I want each and every one of you to get comfortable, loosen your shoulders, move around a little bit, move your neck around, make sure there's no tension in your body or your jaw. And here's what I want you to do. I'm asking you for 2 minutes. What I'd like you to do is just close your eyes and focus on your breath and nothing else. The inhalation and exhalation in your breath, just for 2 minutes. If there's any thoughts that come in, just let them gently disappear. Let's start right now. Okay, I'm going to interrupt that now. How do you feel after those 2 minutes? Anybody feel a little calmer, more relaxed, less stress? Yeah, right. It could have even tired you out as well. How many people struggled with that in terms of external thoughts coming into your brain? Yeah, all of us do. So I implore you, there are all kinds of apps on teaching mindfulness and other meditation techniques. It's essential to help us cope with the overload on our brains. There's also structured decision-making routines to help the brain filter information. One of them might be design information or design thinking, but just make sure that you have thinking processes, routines in terms of decision-making as well that can help filter out information, and take periodic breaks, okay? Digital detoxes that prevent fatigue. So these are some skills I talked about and some mental strategies. So what's the future brain? It's co-evolution with AI. Let AI handle all of the routine tasks, but we have to take the lead as human beings when it comes to creative and ethical decisions. So this is a collaboration, okay, between humans and AI that we must have. So let's offload cognitive tasks. Let's AI use it for memory, like memorizing those 15 numbers. Let it be our assistant, not our replacement. And let it generate ideas. It's really good at doing that. But we have to adapt our human brains by focusing on what we've talked about: judgment, ethics, and creativity. That is the future brain. Now, so what are some practical takeaways here? How to stay ahead of it. Train your brain to be adaptable. Question your decision-making. Learn about the brain, okay? There's books, there are YouTube videos. Everyone should understand how your brain works and how cognitive overload impacts your brain. And again, what can you do about it? You've got to cultivate critical thinking. I've already talked about that, and emotional intelligence. Use AI to amplify your strengths, but not replace judgment. It's your assistant, and that's all it is. It is not human. So establish mental routines also to manage stress. That becomes critically important. So this is a call to reflection, okay? Your brain is your superpower, right? So AI isn't a tool, as I talked about before. It's a mirror for how we think, decide, and adapt, because it's what we put into it. AI mirrors back who we are, okay? So the future will indeed favor those who integrate AI consciously, preserving what makes us human. So we must take this seriously. Now, I'm going to shamelessly talk about my book. It's not really to plug it. We don't make a lot of money off these things. We really do. It really is neuroplasticians. It becomes passion of ours. My book is You versus Your Brain, Reclaiming Your Identity. And what it basically teaches us is that we are not in control of our brains. In fact, our brains work against our best interest for each and every one of people in this room. So the start of handling all this cognitive overload that drains our mental energy, where we lose our focus, our calm, our creativity, where we become reactive instead of proactive, is to really take control of our brains. And as neuroplasticians, that's what we try to do. We teach people how their brains work, okay? We teach people that our brains are highly emotional. 95% of neural activity is emotional. And we teach them, how can you reprogram your brain so that your brain is working in your best interest, that it's serving the interest of you and the people around us. The information we're getting from neuroscientists around the world is astounding. And every week we are learning more and more information. Again, the pace of things that go on out there It's our job as neuroplasticians really to absorb all of that and put together processes. I've got a coaching process called Renew, which is explained in my book. So if you're interested, there are some cards outside to your left if you're interested in finding out about more. Okay, so here's the thing about all of this. I think what we've found. At the beginning of this presentation, I asked you to memorize 15 numbers. One of you was really good, almost got half of them, but most of us couldn't do that. In fact, we were probably frustrated when we tried to do that. AI does that much better than any of us can do. And let's understand and let's recognize that very fact. But let us start to take control. Let us start to do the things that make us human. Again, as I stated previously, the human brain is there to help us survive, not to thrive. It is up to you and you and you. You are responsible for your own creating joy, creating awe, expressing gratitude, for laughing, for experiencing joy. AI can't do any of that. And this is what makes us human. So, I'm going to ask a question. Are you ready to laugh? Yes. Right? Come on, are you ready to laugh? Yes. Yeah, okay. I love that. So, what we've learned is AI can process data, but it can't feel joy. It can experience when we release stress, exercises like mindfulness and anxiety, that a simple human belly laugh can. Because when we laugh, the body produces endorphins and dopamine. As I said, the pleasure comes, and it really makes us feel good. So let's give our brains a laugh. Hey, I can't do that, but we can, okay? So we're going to do a short collective experiment in laughter to end my speech. And here's really what we're going to do. I'd like everybody to stand up. Okay, give yourself a good stretch again, like a really, really good stretch. And we're going to thumb our noses at AI by laughing. Now, I want everybody right now to think of something funny that's happened to them recently or sometime in their lives. Okay? Can we all do that? Now, what I'm going to do, I want a 30-second laugh where literally every person in this room, we are going to laugh, myself included, for 30 seconds. To get us started, I have a little cartoon. It's based on Noah's Ark. Even the animals on Noah's Ark are laughing. I want you to take a look at that. Those of you that find it funny, I want you to start to laugh, but a real deep belly laugh, and I want it to catch on for everybody in the room. Are we ready? Okay, here we go. Come on, everybody. Let's go. One more round. 5 more seconds. Okay. How does that feel? Pretty good. Pretty good. So, the most important question isn't, are our brains ready for AI? The most important question is, are we ready to unlock the parts of our brains that AI can never touch, such as having a good belly laugh? Thank you. Merci. Yeah.